Superintelligence, it's not just sci-fi anymore. This is a future that's being built right now in labs and in boardrooms. And honestly, the stakes for all of us, they couldn't be higher. So let's dive in and try to understand what that future might actually look like.
I mean, just let that sink in for a second. The very people building this tech are the ones sounding the alarm about, existential risks. That's not just a weird contradiction. It's the central tension driving what is maybe the most important race in all of human history.
And that really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? What are we actually building here? A technical marvel? A geopolitical weapon? Or is it some kind of ideological project? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to explore three totally different visions, three different answers to that question. And we'll use the data and analysis to see where they lead.
Okay, but before we jump into those visions, we've got to make sure we're all on the same page, speaking the same language. So let's do a quick breakdown of the key ideas that get us from the AI that's on your phone today to the superintelligence of tomorrow.
All right, so this is the endgame we're talking about, ASI, or artificial superintelligence. And this isn't just about an AI that's, a little faster or better at chess. No, we are talking about an intelligence that is smarter than the most brilliant human minds in everything. Scientific creativity, wisdom, social skills, the whole shebang. It's a leap so big, it's like going from a single-celled organism straight to Einstein.
This is a great way to visualize it. It kind of maps out the whole journey. So think of AI as the big umbrella, the entire universe of this idea. Inside that, you've got machine learning, which is all about learning from data. And the engines that make that run, that's your neural networks and deep learning. And right at the very tip of that spear, that's where we are now, with generative AI and LLMs, the things we're all playing with every day. So each layer gets more specific, more powerful, and they're all pushing us in one direction, towards that superintelligence horizon.
Okay, so let's get into our first vision. This is the view from the trenches, the engineer's perspective. For the people actually building this stuff, it's a story about data, about computing power, and just relentless, measurable progress. And wow, does this show you the pace we're talking about? Take a look. These are the top chatbots from mid-2025, and they are neck and neck. You've got the heavy hitters, Google, OpenAI, XAI, all just leapfrogging each other. The scores just keep climbing month after month. This is not a slow, steady marathon. It's an all-out sprint. One lab has a breakthrough, and literally weeks later, another one matches it or beats it. And this sprint is happening on a timeline that is just mind-blowing. Experts are predicting that by around 2028, AI could handle all the tasks of a retail salesperson. Then, just 5 years after that, around 2033, it might be able to perform surgery. But here's the big one to watch, 2047. That's the median prediction for what they call high-level machine intelligence. Basically the point where AI can do pretty much any job a human can. And listen, that's less than 25 years away. This isn't some far-off distant future. This is happening in our lifetimes. But look, it's not a straight shot to the finish line. There are some huge hurdles to overcome. The models we have today, they're incredible at spotting patterns, but they don't really understand the world. They need embodiment, a way to interact with the physical world. They need to get the difference between correlation and actual cause and effect. And they need a real long-term memory to reason properly. So why should you care about this? Because solving these problems isn't just about throwing more data at them. It's going to take fundamental breakthroughs that will literally define what kind of superintelligence we end up creating. Okay, let's pull back from the lab for a second and zoom out to the world stage. This brings us to vision number 2, where superintelligence isn't just some cool science project. It's the ultimate prize in a high-stakes global power struggle. And if you want to understand this game, you got to follow the money. Just look at these numbers from 2023. Private investment in AI in the US was over 8 times what it was in China. We're talking $67 billion. The US private sector is just pouring unbelievable amounts of cash into this race. And that kind of money creates an innovation engine that, right now, nobody else can really match. But this isn't just about money. It's about totally different philosophies. The US is basically betting the farm on its private sector, the tech giants, the startups, to lead the way. China, on the other hand, is running a state-driven playbook. It's all about integrating AI into every part of its industry and society, top down. And then you've got Europe, which is trying to carve out a third path, focusing on regulation, on safety, on putting up ethical guardrails first. So you've got three completely different strategies, all aimed at winning the exact same game.
So we've got the technology and we've got the geopolitics, but what about the people? What about the ideas and ideologies that are actually driving all this? And that brings us to our third vision. This is the critic's view. It says that the race for superintelligence isn't some neutral scientific pursuit. No, it's a deeply political project, and it's being pushed forward by some very specific worldviews. To really get our heads around this, we're going to dive into one particular critique that lays this all out. Okay, so for this part, we're looking at a specific piece of academic research from the journal CCC. The researchers who wrote it, they coined this term Musking futurism. And it's really important to be clear here. This is their analysis. They're looking at the push for AI through a very critical political lens. So what they do is draw this fascinating historical parallel, comparing Elon Musk to Henry Ford. They point to things like their public personas, their very public, very hostile stance against unions, and their willingness to use their massive industrial power to shape politics, often completely outside of the normal democratic process. Their whole point is that this idea of a visionary industrialist shaping society for all of us, well, it's not exactly a new story. So, according to these researchers, this Muskian futurism is kind of a cocktail of a few different political ideas. There's a bit of cyber-libertarianism in there, minimal government, tech can solve everything. There are also what they call neo-reactionary ideas, which sometimes favor giant corporations running things instead of democracies. And even a dash of right accelerationism, this idea of using technology to speed up the collapse of the current system to build something new. The big takeaway from this critical view is pretty simple. The race to build superintelligence is not happening in a vacuum. It's being actively shaped and steered by a very specific and very powerful ideology. Okay, so we've looked through three different lenses, right? The technical roadmap, the geopolitical game, and the ideological project. But here's the thing. These aren't three separate stories. They're all happening at once. They're colliding and mixing and shaping the future as we speak. So let's put all the pieces together. You've got the engineers, whose relentless progress is what makes superintelligence even seem possible in the first place. That possibility then becomes the ultimate prize in the geopolitical game between nations, and that entire game is being shaped and directed by the very specific ideologies of the people and the companies who are leading the charge. You see how it works? Each one feeds into the next, creating this massive, powerful feedback loop. And all of this leaves us with one final, massive question. See, this isn't just about trying to predict what the future of AI will be, it's about asking who gets to decide. As all these powerful forces, the tech, the nations, the ideologies, all crash together, the real question for every single one of us is this. Who's writing the rules? Who's setting the goals? And ultimately, who gets to write the code for our future?